All right, thanks everyone for coming to tonight's virtual session on the Work Incentives Network. This is a continuation of Organ Spinal Cord Injury Connection's ongoing sessions of educational forums. And tonight we have Leslie Keller, who is a Work Incentives Network benefits counselor, here to do a presentation and answer questions. Leslie, do you prefer if questions are saved for the end or asked during the presentation?
It's actually easier to do them during it, just because of the way the subject changes.
I thought I remembered you saying that. That's why I was clarifying. So if somebody has a question, feel free to unmute or put up your hand or whatever is comfortable for you. With that, Leslie, I just want to thank you and Kirsty for putting this together, and I'll hand it off to you.
Okay, I was going to let you know that Kirsty is also here. She's going to be monitoring the chat and trying to let me know if there's questions that you don't catch, Casey.
Perfect.
But okay, I guess we'll just jump right in here. It's been a really long day and I have never controlled the PowerPoint before, so give me grace. Okay, so we're with the Work Incentives Network. So what we do is we help people who are on benefits, all kinds of different benefits, from SSDI to SNAP to SSI to TANF to whatever. We help them learn how working can affect benefits. There are a lot of work incentives that people are not aware that exist. So this is what the steps are to receive benefits planning. So first you would submit a referral, and there are several ways to submit a referral. We have a website you can go to that we will share. I'll have Kirsty share in the chat what that website is. You can go online and submit a referral for yourself. If you're just, you don't even have to be employed yet. It does take longer to get to one of us sometimes if you aren't employed, because we do according to urgency first. But you can submit that online for yourself. You don't need any casework or anything like that to do it for you. And everything we do is free. So once you put in that referral, it gets distributed out. And depending on the urgency of the situation, like if you have an overpayment, you can get to us within a matter of days sometimes. It just depends on how urgent it is. So after that, we contact you, and then there's, of course, the stack of paperwork that's required when we do all this fun stuff. So we send that out to you however you like to receive it. Sometimes we email them to people. That has become quite popular lately. So we get that back and we fax Social Security, and we contact some other agencies to verify those benefits, because the work incentives involved with those benefits are different depending on the benefit. So we need to make sure. A lot of people tell us they receive Social Security, and that can mean several things. So that's why we do that verification before we start advising. Then after that is when we meet to find out what the employment goal is. This is providing you're not working already. What your work history is, because that matters with different phases of the work incentives that we're going to talk about here in a minute. So at the end of everything that we do, there is a written out report that you can share with if you have supports you want that shared with, or repayee or anything like that, that lists how and what to do depending on what your benefit is and how much you're working and how to report, and just so you can look back on it. So the things we like you to bring are, the biggest one is pay stubs, because if we know what you're making, we can better advise whether it could be an emergent situation or not. That does matter. If you have any letters that say what your Social Security is or what your other benefits are, and any work history that you can remember. A lot of people forget that they worked 5 or 6 years ago for a month or two, and that can make a big difference. So this is the first benefit that we deal with a lot. This is SSI, and this is for people who don't have a work history to receive disability yet. So to qualify for this, you need to be under $2,000 in resources, I'm sure, as you all know, to keep your SSI and Medicaid, if you receive Medicaid. So this is just showing what the numbers are this year and what it's going to be next year for those that do receive that. So the work incentives for SSI, most of them are geared towards people who are still school age. So there's what's called student exclusion. And if you're under 22 and you're doing any sort of education and you're working, you can basically retain your entire SSI check during that time, because it's a work incentive that they give to kids that is not well known. That's probably the biggest one for them, because SSI doesn't have a lot of give here and there. So they have what's called a special condition, but that only applies at eligibility. And that's if you have a person that helps you at work, that's paid for by folk rehab or somewhat similar, like a job coach kind of situation that actually comes and helps you on the job. But that only applies to eligibility, where with the other one, which we'll talk about in a minute, applies all throughout. There's also what's called an IRWI, and that is where if you have outside medical costs, prescriptions, things that aren't covered, but they are for your disability and allow you to work, it's very specific, then they can subtract that from your earnings and you receive more of your SSI check, basically, is how that works. There's also called a blind work incentive, and that one is quite different because you can write off almost anything you pay for, whether it's your lunch at work that day, whether it's the person who walked your dog. It's non-specific. So people with that one, it's a good way to retain most of your SSI if you have a lot of out-of-pocket costs. Have I lost anybody so far?
No, but just a question though, last one you talked about, is what are the qualifications for that? Like, how does one qualify for that?
For which one?
The BWE?
Oh, they have to be considered stat blind by Social Security standards.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's how that works.
Thank you. And I think I might have heard one other question coming in.
Okay.
Nope, maybe not.
Okay, well, stop me if you do. So this is what we were just talking about. Like I said, this one is really specific. This one is very flexible. It can be almost anything. And this is the student earned income inclusion I was talking about, or exclusion I was talking about. These are just the numbers for this year, what it's going to be next year. So what this means is you can make up to this much per month and it will not affect the SSI at all. As long as you are, I don't know why this says 21 and under, but that's worded correctly, I guess. You can't be 22. Threw me off. We used to word that differently. So anyway, these are the new numbers for, this is SGA, which is that fun number that they tell you with if you have SSDI that you can't go over, without telling you that there are a lot of work incentives that may change that number. But this is what that number is this year. It's 1550, and next year it'll be 1620. And I'll explain what all that means here in a second. This one is the most important one if you have SSI. So like in my case, I am SSI eligible, even though I have been working full-time for the last 5 years. The reason I am is because I'm still under this number right here, which is $42,955 a year. This allows me to keep my Medicaid while not receiving a check. The only downside to this one is you still have the $2,000 resource limit. So you have to be cautious about that, which is hard if you're working full-time just to receive the paycheck. So you have to be very cautious about that. But it has allowed me to keep my Medicaid for the last however many years. So that is probably the most important one. Now, if you go over that number, there is an option. You can buy into employed persons with disabilities. And these are just the participant fees based off what your countable income is. And there's a process they go to get that countable income. It isn't just base what you make. There are some exclusions, but this is how much you would pay per month, depending on what your countable income is. The advantage to this one is it raises your resource limit to $5,000, and you become a household of one, which means if you are married, if you are with someone and they have an income, it will no longer have anything to do with your benefits. Like when you are on SSI and you're with someone, everything they have can deem to you, you can lose your Medicaid, all those things. As soon as you switch to EPD, all of that changes. So that is the advantage. The only disadvantage here too is you can't choose to go on EPD. I recently learned you have to actually be above this number. This is just a fun slide we like to put in the middle. This is the one that has a ton of work incentives. So these are Title II benefits we're talking about, which these are based off either a parent's income, your personal income, and this one is if someone passes away, and it's a very small window that you can be eligible for that. But I got ahead of myself. See, this is why someone else does the PowerPoint. So this is, yeah, you must be a widower between 50 and 59 for this benefit. So it's very specific. Most of the people we work with either are on SSDI, SSI, or this one, CDB. This one's based off the parent's work record, which is good for those who probably are never going to have a work record of their own because it lasts into adulthood. It isn't just a childhood benefit. The work incentives for Title II, there are quite a few, and they apply in different ways. So what I'm saying is a generic overview of how it works. It's specific to each person. So if you think one of these things may apply to you in some way, please, let me know and we can be more specific about it. So these apply to SSDI and CDB, which is the childhood benefit. So when you first begin receiving this benefit, from the time you applied, your date of entitlement, any earnings that you make would be counted as earnings, depending on how much it is. But see, a lot of people think that their work record doesn't matter until they start receiving this benefit, but it's actually from the time that you apply. So what happens is there's a trial work period. You get 9 months, and that doesn't have to be consecutive. So you could work 2 months of a trial work period and not do it again for 4 years. And it would still be there. There's a 5-year rolling time period. But if you have to earn this year over $1,110 a month in order to use a trial work period. And all using it means is that you just used one of them. If you make less than this, you don't have to use them, and you can stay out of these phases forever if you choose to. But this is if you choose to work. So if you earn over this, you can earn as much as you want to that month. You could make $7,000 if you wanted to. You could, it doesn't matter. For those 9 months, you are allowed to make whatever you want. The trick is the only time you use one is if you go over this. And then this is next year's number is 1,160. Now this is after all your work incentives have been applied. So there are a ton of those, and won't be able to go into complete detail of them all. But like I said, if you think something might apply to you, reach out. So after this 9 months is up, the next period is the extended period of eligibility, which just means that if you earn over this number we were talking about earlier, they will pause your check for that 1 month, but your benefits are still protected. You don't lose them. You don't go into a suspension or anything like that. It's just, you don't receive it for that month. So if you were to go, say, below SGA for a few months, nothing would happen. You would still be using that 3-year period. Unlike trial work period, it is consecutive. It moves whether you do or not. But if you were to, your earnings were to go back down after being over SGA, your check would just start again. It would be it's supposed to be, let me rephrase, it is supposed to be an automatic process, but this is Social Security we're talking about. So sometimes they need a nudge. But it's supposed to protect the benefits so that you don't lose them if necessary. And if for some reason you decide to work over this and there's no work incentives that apply, and your check goes to 0 and you don't get it anymore, you still have a 5-year period where you can go back and say, hey, I need my benefits back. Like working full-time didn't work for me, or whatever the case may be. Within that 5-year period, you're supposed to be able to go back to them and request it, which is called expedited reinstatement. And they are supposed to reinstate your benefits at that moment while they decide what they're going to do. I say they're supposed to because there has been a lot of, they did not do this. So some things are going on with Social Security. But what's new? There's always something going on there. So, the other part we didn't talk about was when you receive the SSDI benefit, there's a 2-year waiting period for Medicare from your entitlement date. Sometimes they don't tell you that. People don't even know they're gonna get Medicaid at some point, or Medicare at some point, because Social Security just doesn't reveal that to everyone. So this is the protection for your Medicare. It's a lot different than everything else we just talked about. So it's protected after your trial work period ends for at least 93 months is how they put it. There are lots of different reasons you can keep Medicare. I'm not going to go into all those right now, but if that's something you need to talk about, please let us know. Okay, here's the good one for SSDI, I think anyway. So if you're a person who really likes to work, but you need help at work, or you need to do less of the duties someone in your position would do, they have what's called a subsidy. And all it is a 2-page form that an employer fills out that says, yes, I hired this person, but maybe this person can't handle money, so they don't do the cash register part of the job. They just do the bagging and the shopping carts, or whatever the case may be. But someone else who came in for that job would be a cashier as well. So they determine what % of the job they think that employee does. Like say they do 70% compared to someone who did not have a disability and just came in. So they submit that to Social Security, and then Social Security does not count 30% of that person's income. They just deduct it. So if you're working above that 1550 range for this year, and you get enough of a subsidy that it drops you down back to under that, then it can keep your check still coming while still working at a decent level. I have a lot of people who qualify for these and they don't even realize that they do, because they think, oh, they help me a little bit here and there, or yeah, he lets me take 5-minute extra break, but all that counts. All of that is specific to a disability. So it can be one of the biggest game changers as far as money goes. And a special condition is just a little bit different. It's more like if a job coach comes on the scene and helps you with your job, X amount of hours paid for by another agency, but that would be deducted from that person's earnings and would not be counted. So there's those work incentives. I do those a lot. So this is a good one as well. The impairment related work expense we talked about earlier for SSI is also the same for SSDI. It has to be an expense that's paid out of pocket and it's directly related to your disability and allows you to work. That would be deducted from your earnings and not counted. The unsuccessful work attempt is if you tried a job and determined that it didn't work out for whatever reason, within a 6-month period, we can request to Social Security that they don't count that time period of work. Which helps with if you have trial work period months or something like that, they could give those back. Which is good for if you just don't, some people want to try working, but find that that level of work may be too much for them or whatever the case may be. So it's good that Social Security doesn't penalize your check for that. This is just a tracking sheet that we would give you if you wanted to have it. Once we showed you how they do the countable earnings versus whether you'd be receiving a check, what phase you might be in. It's just our tracking chart. These are ways to get around the resource limits for those of you who may have SSI or anybody who knows someone who does. The ABLE account, you can save up to $18,000 a year, and it is not counted towards that $2,000 resource limit. It basically does not exist as far as Social Security is concerned. But your disability had to have happened before the age of 26 to qualify. Now, in a couple more years, that age will be 46. It was voted to change it, but they wanted to wait 3 years for some reason to make it official. So at 3 years, actually, I think we have 2 now. In 2 years, it'll be before the age of 46. And that limit is up to $100,000 that would not be counted against Medicaid or SSI.
Leslie, I have a question on the ABLE account.
Yeah.
Now, funds that you put in there, are you able to use them on anything, or is there restrictions on what you could use them for?
The restriction on the ABLE account is that it somehow improves the quality of your life. So if buying yourself a Switch makes you feel better, great. If going to Disneyland makes you happy, go there. There is no restrictions at all. You can pay for rent. You can pay. I know how some benefits you can't. You can get this like the special needs trust, for instance, that I'm going to talk about in a minute. You can't use it for rent or food or basic needs. It's only for things that are like outside of that. Otherwise, it affects benefits. So the ABLE account, yeah, it's free and clear. You can do whatever improves your quality of life.
Can I ask you a question, Leslie, as well?
Sure.
So I was diagnosed with my disability and I was 27. Although is that what they base your age off of, is your diagnosis date?
No, they base it off of what you tell them. There is no, they don't look into anything. They ask you when you got your disability. It doesn't have to be approved by Social Security. It doesn't have to be approved by, a specific diagnosis. You just, it had to have happened before that age.
And who, like, to set up one of these accounts, how do you initiate that?
So they have a website that you go on and you can create an account, and then it connects to another account that you want to fund it with in order to send the money into it. And then you have an option of either moving money from that account to your account to use it, or they now have a card that you can use and ask them to put funds on. I will say it's not the quickest to get those funds available. It does take, a few days to a week, depending on what you're trying to do. So I would think ahead on that. Yeah, so it's based off of when you started having those symptoms that, or when you had it already. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And Leslie, the card you're talking about, is that basically like a debit card that's connected to your ABLE account?
Basically, yes.
But you have to transfer funds from the ABLE card onto that ABLE debit account to be available.
Yes.
Thank you.
There's also 2 other options to invest. There's different levels of investment if you wanted to invest rather than save. They have one that's lower risk, that's more of a quicker turnaround, and then they have one that's a higher risk but better long-term goal. So if you wanted to put it in there for someone's retirement or whatever the case might be. They do give you
Is
options.
is that through Able as well?
Yes, those are the different types of Able accounts you can have.
Copy.
Yeah, I'm new to Able account and I only transferred like $500 in there, but I did like the high risk one. And I think I mean, it's only been in there a couple months and I think it's up to like 518. So, it's not a lot of gain, but I mean, it's definitely a gain.
Yeah, they always tell us that it's like a long-term goal situation if you
Yeah.
really wanted to build that money. But yeah, that's great. We're still all kind of new to it too and learning things about it, but they're really good with customer service. So if for some reason you do have questions, you can get a hold of a human being to help you with it.
Is there
Right.
anything that they can penalize you on with making those kind of gains?
In the Able account?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Only if you go over that $100,000 limit. And then they're
Gotcha.
gonna say you're over resourced, basically. But we're not sure what next year's numbers are, so this is based off of this year, the 18,000. So the next one goes with an SSI benefit or someone who lost SSI purely because they now qualify for SSDI. So with a pass, it allows you to set aside money, like they will restore your SSI amount, but they don't give it to you. They set it aside for you, and you save it up for a specific goal that has to do with working. Essentially, they're trying to help you work off of your benefits. So this is like, if you get so much in SSDI, they're like, no, you don't get any more SSI, but in every other way, you're still eligible. What they'll do is say, okay, we're going to give this back to you without the penalizing of having the money, but then you can't use it except for this particular thing. So if you're saving up for a van, you have to use it on a van, and it has to be something that, now, if you don't get off of benefits and continue working, it's not like anything. There's no penalty for that. It does happen. I have a person that's doing a second one right now. She did it like 10 years ago or so for a van, and they approved it. And then now the van is essentially breaking in ways it's not worth fixing, which is stopping her from being able to work. So we're trying to put in a second one. Essentially, you can do more than one in your lifetime. You just have to be working towards that goal. And the special needs trust is generally, it allows to save money for like future medical problems, future things that aren't basic needs. Usually it has nothing to do with the basic needs part, but it allows you to save money for the future of that person without it affecting Medicaid. Usually that $2,000 limit, they're talking about Medicaid, which occasionally does have SSI with it too, which also has that resource limit. So that's not one that's done too often. It does cost money to set up. And the only ones that are fully approved through Social Security have to be done by the ARC of Oregon. So far, they're the only ones we know of that know how to do it correctly every time.
And those funds that are in the special needs trust are more limited on what you can spend it on, correct?
Yes, it has to be related to certain things only. And like I said, no roof over your head, no clothes, no food. But the other things that can arise, therapy, outside medical treatments, things like that. And usually the person the trust is set up for cannot just go and withdraw money from it. They have a process they have to go through. Someone else manages that account.
And
And
is
for
there
anybody, sorry, Casey, for
you
anybody
first?
that's looking to go into the OPI project that they just are launching, I think it's coming out in March, but if you have a special needs trust, you're no longer eligible to be with OPIM, or if you start one.
Really?
Yep, I just found that out.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so to be eligible for OPIM, you cannot have any sort of trust at all.
And that's Medicaid, right?
Sorry, I muted. Yes.
And where did that information come from?
Straight from OPIM because I just applied. And I got denied because I'm over resourced right now.
Are you over resourced because of a trust or?
No, it basically I got I wouldn't say gifted, but I forget the term, inherited a retirement from my dad. So
Oh yeah, that will do it.
yep,
Uh, depending on how much it is, you could put it in an Able account and then wouldn't count anymore.
that's exactly what I'm looking to do.
Okay.
Leslie, Cody, can I, I'll connect you two outside of this. And
Exactly.
maybe
Thank
Cody
you.
can set up an appointment and you guys can help work through that.
Yep.
Thank
No
you.
worries. Okay.
Leslie, one last question on the special needs trust, is that, so I'm not sure if this is the same thing, but I had a friend that had got in a car accident and became disabled and got a settlement from that and then put that in the special needs trust to be able to get on state insurance and stuff and so that's kind of more of the like specialty for the special needs trust, right? Like those kind of.
as long as, what was were you wondering about, could he get it or?
No, I'm just wondering if like that is like some of the situations that the special needs trust is set up for.
Oh, yes. They're just so specific. It has to come from certain places, done certain wording.
Yeah.
They're really hard to make exactly the way they want them, I should say, which is why we don't do them.
Thank
Because
you.
we help with a lot of the paperwork. That was the other thing that's not in this slide. We do help with overpayments. There are ways to appeal. There are waivers that you can submit. There are things people don't necessarily know about when it comes to overpayments. I will say it's really, really important to report your wages. I don't care if the office said don't report. Legally, federally, you are required to report regardless of what that office says. So just to keep that in mind. Also, if you don't report, they make up their own numbers. They'll actually write in the little word estimate, and it could be anything. Like I had people that were working under SGA about 12, 13, and they stopped reporting. And I got a BBQI of theirs, which showed all their earnings. And it said, we estimate they made $3,000. And I was just like, but you know better. There's a history of nothing anywhere near that. But it was all because it wasn't reported. So they just decided to estimate.
Good
Plus,
advice.
it's easier to report ahead of time than to try to fix the problem that arises from not reporting eventually. Just my last little word of advice there for that.
Thank you.
That's pretty much the gist of it. There are 11 of us that do this in the state. Well, we're not quite at capacity right now. Some are being trained. But these are the different CILs that they work out of. And we are, when we receive referrals, we get them from all over the state. So it doesn't have to be specific to an area. If you, however, do want in-person services, make sure to put that on that referral. Because if they see in person, they will connect you with us if you're in Medford or Grants Pass or a few other different counties. But make sure to put that in.
Towards the beginning of this slide or the slideshow, basically, I know it was for mostly catered towards people that are unemployed, but do you guys still help people that are already employed?
Oh, yes. They're actually the ones that are higher priority usually, because it's more likely to affect their benefits right then. But we do like to meet with unemployed, but we do it according to, like I said, urgency. So like overpayment would be the top urgency. Already employed would be a pretty high urgency. And then it goes down to like about to be employed kind of situation. And it goes all the way down to unemployed, basically just curious. But those are the ones that it can take a few months. But if it's urgent, it can be pretty quick. And employment does count as urgent.
Thank you. Now, are all work incentive network benefit counselors connected to a Center for Independent Living?
Yes. Right now, all of them are. These are the different CILs that they're with.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. They're contracted to each of these centers.
Yeah.
Any other questions or things I didn't elaborate enough on?
Back to the ABLE account, $18,000 a year can go in. Can that be a lump sum, or does that need to be spread out? How?
It can be a lump sum if you wanted it to be. It's up to you how you put it in, and it's through the calendar year, so January to December. But if you have a job, you can make it to where just your wages are going in, and that allows you to deposit an additional $14,580 a year. So this is your base amount, and this is if you put your wages into.
So yeah, so if you're employed, you could technically do like 32,000
Right.
580
Yeah.
per year. Oh wow, that's a significant jump up.
Yeah, it is. I wish I could afford to save that much. That would be great.
Right.
But it's
With
nice
that,
that it is up there, because unlike, SSI hasn't changed in a billion years when it comes to that resource limit.
yeah. Is there any work on that to be changed, do you know of?
There has been push for that for very many years now. We keep getting shot down. But they're trying to convince them that they're trying to get the 2,000 changed to 10,000, which
Gotcha.
would at least be more reasonable. But so far that movement has not gone forward far enough.
And then on like you were saying, you could like technically just deposit your check right into the ABLE account. Now, is that something you could set up to have it be direct deposited with your employer, or is it something that needs to go into your account that you have connected to your ABLE and then you transfer it over?
Yeah, I think that would be more of the way to do it. I believe you probably could do a direct deposit situation, because they do allow other people to contribute to your account, but it still has to fall within that $18,000 limit. But you can set it up where anybody can put money in your account. So it does have to be connected to another account.
So that brings up the question, if let's say husband and wife, one of them is on like state stuff, has a ABLE account, could their spouse that's not disabled on state services deposit some of their money into their spouse's ABLE account? That way it still helps them stay under a resource.
If they were giving it to their spouse, sure. I mean, I'm sure that's a technicality right there, but
Interesting. Okay.
technically it is someone contributing to your ABLE account. So
Yes. Okay.
but you would still be under that same 18.
For sure, yes.
No matter how many people. And the other one would only apply to your specific job. Like you couldn't have your husband's job money put in there or whatever, the case might be.
Correct, the 14,580.
Yeah.
Yes, gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else that has questions, please feel free to unmute and fire away while we have an expert in the room.
Yeah, hey Leslie, Hannah here.
Hi, Hannah.
Can you speak to spin down accounts?
Say that again.
A spin down account?
Spend down account?
Yeah, I'm about just a quick synapse of a situation. I'm about to get a chunk of money from a lawsuit. And they said a spin down account would be the best way, but all I know, and I'm not like, I'm just wondered if you know more, is that I have to spend all the money but in the month that they give it to me.
Yes.
Do you
That
know, is there restrictions on what I can spend that money on?
To my knowledge, no, they just want it out of your hands as fast as possible.
Okay, and then that, does that not interrupt benefits, or does it have the potential to?
It has a potential to for the month you have it. We don't advise spend down anymore. It used to be a thing, so that's why I was kind of surprised when you said it. Normally we try to tell people to find a different option because it seems crazy to just spend a whole bunch of money just so you can keep the benefits, that you could use for something in the future or whatever. But of course, ultimately it's up to that person in the end.
In my
You
situation,
can't put it
I
in
was
there.
injured too old for the ABLE account, and then
Ah.
it would cost more money to set up a special needs trust than I'm even getting.
Yeah, that's crazy about that account. Is that the only disability you have is when you were injured? Did you have
Yeah.
anything before that? Never?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that makes it more difficult.
It's exciting they're raising the age. Too bad it wasn't already raised.
Yeah, I don't know why they put a 3-year delay on it. It was very weird. But I guess we were just happy that they accepted it. So we're like, that leaves out a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad all the people that have to wait in, 2 more years now, 3 years to be able
Yeah.
to be able to use the ABLE account.
Right? And I don't recommend putting it under your bed, although I do know a person that does that. No matter how much I advise him, it's a bad idea. He says he's waiting for the age thing to change and then he'll put it in there.
I know somebody who thought their money was in a very waterproof container out in the woods, and it was all rotted when they went to get it. And then
Oh,
also, a lot
no.
of people lost, a lot of people that were relying on cash for whatever reason lost everything during the Alameda fires. So under the bed isn't the safest.
Yep, there you go, right there. Or if you're gonna do that, fireproof, waterproof, safe. But yeah, they don't make it easy, that's for sure. But there are some things, so if you want to work and you have benefits and you want to know more about what could apply to you, get a hold of one of us. Or Kirsty, did you share the website?
No, I haven't.
Okay, can you? I can't figure out how to do it.
Yeah, anybody interested? Leslie and Kirsty's emails are right here. Or you can call Hassel and they'll connect you, or you could reach out to Hannah or I, and we'll also connect you with Leslie.
Okay, and we also have a 800 number. So you have a phone number and you can also email. We can share that too.
Yep, your emails and phone number are up on the slide right now.
No, I meant the phone number to refer yourself, or to you can email them that you want to be referred as well.
I got you.
Yeah, that's outside of us. Because
Leslie,
technically,
if
go
you
ahead.
don't mind, when you're done, sorry.
It's okay.
So basically, I'm just curious, like, can you roll in, like, instead of withdrawing money from like an IRA or something currently, you can just roll that money into a ABLE account?
I did have a person recently do that. Yes, they just direct deposited it right from that account to that account because she was
Okay.
facing benefit issues.
And that's basically, you just need like your account numbers to initiate that transfer?
Yeah, you just go on the website for it, the ABLE account, and
Cool. I
tell
really
them what you want
appreciate
to.
you.
Yeah.
Are you penalized for rolling it over to an ABLE like you would be for withdrawing it from an IRA?
I'm pretty sure you are, yes.
Gotcha.
It's a tough situation to get into.
Yeah, but at least it's a safe way to be able to do something
Yeah,
like
you can at least keep some of it and,
that. Be eligible, yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Leslie. This has been super helpful. I know you've had a long day, but
That's
so we'll do
okay.
a last call for any more questions.
Mhm.
And if nobody has any, and you think of one after this, please reach out to Hannah or I, and we'll connect you over.
Hang on a sec, I'll put the email.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie, for taking the time tonight to do this. Greatly
Yeah.
appreciate it.
No problem.
One other thing is I have a short survey for feedback on these educational forums that I'm going to drop in the chat. If anybody would be willing to click the link and take the time to fill that out, it shouldn't take more than just a couple minutes. Leslie, I see your phone number is dropped in there for the
This is the win refer.
Yep, for the win refer. That's
Yep, and then that's their
1-800
email.
Oh, yep, 1-800-661-2571.
Yep. And then there's the email. You can also self-refer that way. Or go to the website, which I don't have handy. We need to add that to this slide, Kirsty.
Perfect. With that, I just want to thank you again. Much appreciate your knowledge and being willing to come and share this. It's such a need in the community, and I'd love to run this back again sometime in 25.
Yeah, and
course.
we're really lucky with only having a limited amount of people in your position across the state. We're really lucky to have somebody just one county over.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's amazing. Yeah.
And we can come to you as well. So
Mhm.
keep that in mind.
Cool.
Very
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you all for coming.
Thank you, and thank you, Kirsty.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna hop off. I'll see you later.